Hello, Marcia Kavanaugh. Thanks so much for joining us. Well, in New Orleans, the good news this week is that the city is entering phase 3 of the recovery guidelines. The bad news is that no one can gather at a bar counter to celebrate. We'll be looking at the latest in the COVID crisis, trend changes in home buying, more cruise delays, and what about Mardi Gras? And also changes in the NOPD crime-fighting strategy. We'll also hear about an expanding investigation on vehicle swiping insurance fraud. Joining us are tonight's Informed Sources. Errol Laborde, producer of Informed Sources. Don Ostrom, Channel 12's Future Watch reporter. And Mike Perlstein, investigative reporter, WWLTV, Channel 4. All righty, let's go over to Errol first. And Orleans Parish has made it into phase 3, but they're calling it 3.1.
Yeah. Well, I think Halloween, more than usual, is shaping up to be a big day. There may not be as much trick-or-treating, but the mayor assured everybody that they're not going to try to cancel any celebration. They're going to have some rules. But the other part about, which may be important about Halloween, is that phase 3 has been divided up into phases 3.1, 3.2, and 3.3. And what we got yesterday was phase 3.1. Phase 3.2 is going to be the middle of the month, like around October 16th. And the 31st, which is Halloween, if everything follows, if everything goes, will be, a lot more things will be open. It won't be like it used to be, but at least the bars and the restaurants will be open. For the first time, people will be able to go inside a bar and go up to the bar counter and order a drink. And so that'll be a good way to celebrate Halloween. But in the meantime, what we can do now is that the restaurants are up to 75% capacity. Remember, we started off at 25, and let me tell you, when it was 25%, the restaurants were suffering. I mean, they were having a hard time, and that was when they were looking at putting up outdoor tents and that sort of thing. So 75% capacity, 100% outside if you're doing things. I think we're beginning to see the new era of outside dining in New Orleans, because a lot of restaurants could be forced to do this. But if it works out, I mean, obviously it'll be a weather problem sometimes, but I think they're going to figure out ways to do this, and so I think we're going to see more and more of that. And then with phase 2, we're going to have more capacity as far as outdoor events. You have 100 people. Indoor events, you could have 50 people. In all cases, you can still have a bar, but you're going to have to go and get your drink or to-go or to-go cups. You know, you can't have your elbow on the bar and still drinking. And then by the 31st is when it's going to probably loosen up if everything comes. You know, at the same time, and it's sort of related to it, is that the Saints are hinting that they're kind of optimistic that by the next home game they can allow 25% capacity, which would be around 18,000 people. And even Commissioner Goodell wrote a letter to the mayor and saying, please, you know, let the NFL play in your stadium. The state has allowed it already, and in terms of LSU games and all that, I mean, allowed more capacity. And so we're seeing things starting to loosen up a little bit, maybe, but it's always with the warnings, you know. Things could go bad, and if it goes bad, we're going to go back, you know, to what the original rules were.
So the message is still be cautious, be careful, you know, mitigate, wear those masks, wash your hands, etc. Now, restaurants and bars, they have to close pretty early. I mean, much earlier, particularly for bars, than New Orleans usually used to close the bars.
Yeah, by 11 o'clock, and they can't open until like 8 a.m. But it's like the rule for bars, the new rules, phase 3 or phase 3.1, go into effect at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. So there's not going to be any bars open at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Yeah, and so it's tight hours, but I think those are reasonable hours, and so yeah, we're going to see more of that.
Okie dokie. All right, Errol. Well, you know, it is progress, but once again, you know, we're not out of the woods, so everybody still has to maintain caution. And as you said, if we revert back, then that all can change.
Yeah, and you know, New Orleans has always been a couple of steps, you know, behind the other parishes, and who knows, maybe that's the right thing. We just don't know. Yeah. But at least they've been able to see what the other parishes have done and how it's worked out in the other parishes, so at least as a model.
Okay, E, thanks a lot. I'm going to go over to Mike now. And the New Orleans Police Department, NOPD, announced today some changes in its crime-fighting strategy. Number one, why do they do it? And number two, what are they going to do?
Yeah, well, it was earlier today. Superintendent Sean Ferguson announced pretty sweeping changes on the major crime-fighting, violent crime, armed robberies. And what you have is two units that were once highly celebrated, one being the Tiger unit, that's, tactical intelligence gathering and enforcement that was initially created to focus on armed robberies and do kind of long-range investigations, look at serial armed robbers, and they were citywide. It was under the Special Operations Division, almost an elite unit, and that expanded to aggravated batteries, non-fatal shootings. Well, now, after being highly celebrated, that unit is being disbanded. The other that is being disbanded, they've been suspended since June, is the district task forces. Mm-hmm. So obviously we have these 8 police districts housed in the various precincts with 3 different platoon shifts, but task forces were specifically designed to hit hot spots, to be proactive, to go after drug traffic, and other proactive and even undercover operations. Well, since the suspension in June, Ferguson announced today that they are being disbanded permanently, and that was another once highly celebrated unit. Now they came under criticism by the consent decree monitors, a rather blistering report that there was weak supervision, some questionable stops and searches, possibly unconstitutional. And he just decided, possibly out of pressure to please the federal judge and the consent decree monitors, to get the city out from under the consent decree, number one. But it also looked like he wanted to put his stamp on the department with some of his own initiatives. He did seem to think that Tiger, which initially focused heavily on armed robberies, and he said that for the year 2020 over last year, armed robberies are actually close to even a little down, while homicide is up 60% and non-fatal shootings, aggravated batteries, are up 40%. So he couched it in a need to kind of reshift the focus where it is needed the most, which is shootings and killings. So he announced, and he threw out a lot of acronyms, if I can get this right. It's VCAT, the Violent Crime Investigation and Abatement Team. VCAT now replaces Tiger in a sense, and that's citywide. They are going to work a little more closely with state and federal law enforcement, and rather than look at those possible serial armed robberies, they're going to look at the shootings and killings and try to make gang connections and retaliation shootings, because that is perhaps 2020's most pressing New Orleans crime problem. Now, what about those task forces? They had been responsive within each individual district, not necessarily community policing, but at least getting to know within a district hotspots and things like that. He said that, that's going to be, replaced by kind of a hybrid. One is something that he called the District Action Team. So District Action Team will actually kind of revive community policing. Those non-pack meetings, meeting with residents and business owners in the district, get to know what their needs are, rather than the more, I guess, jump out boys was the street term for the task forces because of their, aggressive and proactive tactics in fighting crime. And now they're going to try a little more of a community policing approach in the districts and try to be responsive that way.
No, is this effective immediately, Mike? This whole new approach?
Effective immediately.
Okay.
That's right, effective immediately. In fact, Tiger, now it's interesting. So Tiger had been made up of, kind of the elite, the go-getters, the aggressive officers who really wanted to go after some of the more serious criminals. And he basically decided, well, with that disbanded, he can pick and choose who is going to join the new squad. And some people, he said, didn't make the cut. He goes, look, you try out for the team. Some people made it. Some people who were in Tiger for quite a long time did not make the cut. So he is definitely putting his stamp, picking and choosing the officers he has confidence in, and reforming the department, both to meet the consent decree and putting his fingerprints on it.
Let me let you quickly touch on manpower. Does he have the manpower that he needs to do this?
They're a bit at break even. They've been treading water on manpower, but at that level of treading water, they are still understaffed. one measure of manpower is, of course, response time for calls for service. And there are still problems, for example, in the 7th District, New Orleans East, where they take the longest to respond to ordinary calls. That's still a problem. It has actually done better in other districts, but this actually frees up task force officers to join the platoons and to help out in responding to those calls.
All righty, Mike. Thanks a lot. We'll be looking to see, hopefully, that this will have some real positive impact. Thanks a lot. Don, over to you. In the midst of this pandemic, how have sales been going of property, of residential condos, et cetera, that type of thing?
Well, before we start, in full disclosure here, when I wear my other hat off TV, I actually am a realtor.
Okay.
So, but I did not use myself as an expert at all. I talked to WYES, who is a local real estate expert. One of the biggest things that's changed is really what people are looking for. Prior to COVID, people, you heard a lot about open floor plans and not a lot about Zoom rooms and home office this and student offices. And people are really looking for different things in terms of housing. Where people might have been interested in condos, they'd now rather not share elevators with other people and have more outside space to themselves. There's good news if you're a homeowner in this market, though. Right now, the average house price has gone up 6% during this time from the same period last year, and 4% per foot over the same time period. But the number of sales has gone down 8%. You hear nationally, it's been hot, real estate selling like crazy. The reason for that is because interest rates are historically low, and they're probably going to stay historically low. And WYES says that's probably the only reason we've stayed kind of on the national trend too, with the housing market doing better than some would expect. Because people can afford more house than they otherwise would because the mortgage rates are so low. But we have several problems in this area in particular. They are that we don't have tourism right now. The oil and gas industry was getting weak, and it's now even getting weaker. We don't have conventions. We don't have tourists. So the total listings of real estate in Jefferson and St. Tammany, for instance, are down, while the average house price is up. The average price in our region, which is a 10-parish region, is $287,000. In Orleans Parish, it's up 5% to $382,000 for this period this year. Jefferson Parish is up 12%. So again, if you're a homeowner, you're probably happy, but if you're trying to find that home, you're struggling. What's really struggling too right now is the condo market and the office space market, because those are places where people would be bumping into people in an elevator, in a lobby, in shared spaces, and they don't want those shared spaces right now. When interest rates drop, which they ultimately will do, will people be stuck with inflated house prices? That's another problem that they're advising you look at. So St. Tammany is the one parish that's really staying consistent through all of this, but it's just a different time, different market. If you talk to realtors on, say, the Mississippi Gulf Coast, they can't keep inventory in. They're buying and selling like crazy because people are really just looking to spread out.
Interesting. So is there any particular price point or even place in our metro area that's seeing the most sales, most movement?
The biggest price points are probably not luxury homes. The more $300,000 to $600,000 price range is where there's the most amount of movement. There are also a lot of people refinancing, which triggers what looks like new sales. But total listings are down across the board in our whole area. So it's not, there's not a ton of movement there. Apartments actually are doing well with leasing, but that could lead to problems down the road when if people are laid off or unemployed and unable to pay their rent.
Okay, thanks a lot for a look at our real estate market. Thanks, Don. Mike, back over to you. You've been working on a story now for a while, looking into, it's a federal investigation into really fake crashes involving big vehicles and cars. So things have really been developing in this. Why don't you tell us what's the latest?
Yes, things have taken a dramatic turn, both in the scope and now tragic violence. Now, this is an investigation that's been going on, for more than a year. I started chronicling it for WWLTV in our series highway robbery and back in November. So it's almost a year of looking into this, and it's now the most recent developments is a dropping of a new indictment that brings the number of defendants up to 28 people who have packed cars, intentionally sideswiped, usually 18-wheelers, and then worked hand in hand with attorneys to claim injuries, sometimes non-existent injuries, sometimes get expensive medical procedures that weren't warranted to try to collect big, checks and settlements, and all a major scam that drives up everybody's insurance rates. With the most recent indictment of 9 new defendants, the ringleader, the lead scammer, and the one who dealt directly with attorneys in, arranging these accidents, finding, and recruiting passengers to, sign up and make these fraudulent claims, was a 54-year-old man named Cornelius Garrison, who had been implicated previously, as being part of these scams for more than a decade. Well, he had been cooperating quietly, secretly, for several months, presumably pointing the federal authorities in the right directions. He gets named in an indictment 2 Fridays ago, and 4 days later, shot and killed in his home in Gentilly in a murder that has now drawn all kinds of federal attention. The FBI joining the NOPD, which is quite rare for a New Orleans murder, and including special agents from Quantico, Virginia. So this is now the murder of a federal witness, not just a federal witness, but a key federal witness in the middle of cooperating, naming names, delivering attorneys, and the indictment in which he was portrayed as that ringleader did name the attorney who helped him get a major settlement, Vanessa Mata, colorful character, the Hollywood stunt woman turned Loyola Law School grad, 4 years out of law school. She's become a prominent accident attorney, specializing 18-wheeler accidents. Some people have seen her from television ads, billboards all over the city, and she happens to be the fiance of another character named Sean Alfordish, fresh out of the federal penitentiary for a fraud case involving the Horsemen's Benevolent Association, in which he rigged an election to get himself reelected as president of that organization. That fraud was caught. He did prison time, gets out, hooks up with Vanessa Mata, and he is implicated as sort of a middleman who had direct contact with Cornelius Garrison and other named defendants. Now, in the indictment, Vanessa Mata is referred to as Attorney B. Sean Alfordish is referred to as co-conspirator A, but it's quite transparent. We were able to connect the dots and name those two as implicated. So what everyone is now looking for is, we have a federal witness murdered. We have other defendants perhaps, frightened for their life about cooperating. How much will they continue to cooperate? Help, the U.S. Attorney's Office and FBI, drag these attorneys into this. But what everybody is expecting next are these accident attorneys on the hook for their role in the fraud. Many of them have retained very prominent criminal defense attorneys themselves.
Mike, is this widespread? Is it happening in other places, or is it just here?
Well, it is probably as old as vehicle insurance itself. It has popped up in other parts of the country, and in some cases in an organized fashion. Now, what makes it so lucrative in Louisiana are the insurance laws with no caps on damages. It is considered one of, I guess, sort of the loosest states when it comes to making an accident claim, and you can just see the proliferation of television ads and billboards. Clearly it's a lucrative line of the law, and some would say that has incentivized fraud. That because there's no caps on awards, anything can go to a jury. There's always a threat of multi-million-dollar judgments. So we see, settlements in some cases, large six-figure settlements rather than insurance companies and big trucking companies risking going to trial before a jury of peers. So we are the loosest state, and that has drawn, I think, some of the most longstanding and organized fraud rings, and that's why we now have 28 people under indictment, all ringleaders, passengers, and drivers in the cars, and we are now we're on watch for the attorneys who they work with.
Okay, so 2 separate indictments have thus far been handed down, right? The investigation continues. We expect more indictments, is what you're saying.
Right. That's right. We have 3 total indictments.
3 total, okay.
28 defendants among them, but one of those defendants, of course, was a ringleader in staging these accidents, now a murder victim. So this is branched into homicide, and the feds are very concerned.
Okay. All right, Mike, thanks a lot. We'll be keeping up with you on that. Errol, over to you. A couple of things. Mardi Gras, are we going to have one? What does it look like?
Oh, there will be a Mardi Gras, there's no doubt about it.
Well, I mean, it's a day.
Yeah. Same way there will be a Christmas. I mean, it's a day on the holiday.
But we have our carnival.
Yeah. Will there be the parades that precede Mardi Gras? That's still an uncertainty. I kind of think there's going to be something. I don't think anybody's going to say you can't do anything during the carnival season. But I think there'll be something, but it's got to be defined. Last week, a crew called Ostrom dropped out, and people took that as a sign. Well, maybe this is the beginning of it. But you look at the carnival crews, and they're not all created equally. There are some that are just much stronger, that are better funded, that have a more established membership base. There are some that just grab any members they can get and don't have that much of a budget. And so those that are kind of financially shaky, and I'm not saying this one was, but just as a rule, those that are kind of financially shaky have a more difficult time surviving this, because like right now, they can't even be collecting any dues. They don't know if they have any members. And so, they have to know what to do. The more established crews, have that membership list, and it's a prestigious thing to be in. And so the more established ones can probably wait a little bit longer, hold on a little bit longer. They can be building their floats now, and if for some reason there's not a parades, then they can just hold them over the next year, whereas the others can't do that. And so that's going to make a difference, the difference also. No one's going to know for sure until the very latest, because people look at the results, they look at the public safety out there. If there are parades, we know there's going to have to be some rules as far as distancing. How do you distance a Mardi Gras parade crowd? For some of the parades you can, because that first week in the parades, they're not really big attendance parades, they're mostly locals. On the other hand, when you get down to Bacchus and Endymion and Rex and Orpheus, and now Muses, I mean, they're very, very, very crowded. So there's got to be some rules about that. It's happened before, though, that there was a crisis, and Carnival had to adapt to the crisis. The carnival after, first carnival after Katrina, a lot of crews couldn't make it. And so they just adapted, that some crews combined, did things, kind of changed their route, shortened their route. And I think those kind of things could be done. The other question, though, could be the marching groups that are in there. Will the schools be willing to come and bring kids? We don't know yet. And there's a lot of new marching groups in the New Orleans Carnival. And you hope, and they're part of the fun of them, so I hope whatever happens, that there's a place for them.
Okay, well,
Errol,
all we can do is wait and see. Okay, real quick, Don, because we're running out of time.
Just how do you limit the crowds, though? How do you even try to figure out how to control a crowd watching a parade?
The only thing I can think is, like with barricades, like having viewing areas that you can go to. And again, the first week it's not that big of a problem, but the second week it will be, and they're going to have to figure that out.
We'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure the mayor will be letting us know one way or the other. She seems to be pretty firm in her decisions. That's
they could put the parades on Zoom. So
well, it'll be a little bit different, doing it from your living room, going to a parade. Okay, Errol, let's wrap it up real quick now. Cruise ships, they've decided they're making some changes too.
Well, Carnival Cruise, Carnival Cruise is the biggest operator out of New Orleans, and they decided they're not going to be cruising at all this year, and so not starting up until next year. What happened is that the Center for Disease Control had put the end of October as a moratorium, like no cruises until after October. And then they changed it to after November. And at that point, I think Carnival said, well, look, we'll just wait until next year. And so they canceled all their cruises, except they left open the possibility. They have 2 ports in Florida, one in Miami and one at Cape Canaveral. They said maybe maybe at the end of the year we'll use these two, but we're not guaranteeing anything. So I think the other cruise lines are going to follow. So I don't see any activity. And New Orleans was doing so well with cruises. It was becoming such a big business. And I just need to remind people that the other people that are most affected are the people in the towns where the cruises are going to. Like the cruises here go mostly to the Western Caribbean. And you can imagine, like, if there's an informed sources in Cozumel tonight, they're talking about the loss of passengers that will be coming in, because that's the real lifeline for all those people, all these boats coming in from the United States. And so it's a big, big loss. A lot of those people are just small independent operators. So the damage is huge on both sides of the water.
It's an industry that's really been impacted worldwide.
Yeah, and it was an image that was really booming. I mean, it was really good. It was really developing. And Carnival had just been developing the ship, the Mardi Gras, which is coming to New Orleans, is going to be a big deal. The Disney ship, Disney has a new ship that was to come here. And so we were really getting to be a really major cruise terminal, because people like to come to New Orleans, stay a night or so before or after New Orleans. So we had everything. And that also affected the airlines. There was a lot of business for the airlines, and they're suffering too.
Well, New Orleans is still going to be here when all of this is over with, so hopefully they'll come visit us. All right, round table, other stories. E.
Well, on the November ballot, there's going to be a constitutional amendment which, in effect, will give voters a chance to vote on having sports betting in their parish. They're not voting statewide. They're voting if they would like to have sports betting in their parish. Our parish, which has several casinos, or certainly the Harris Casino, I'd imagine would probably be in favor of it.
All righty, Don?
The Saints, we talked about whether or not they'll have fans back. Will they have players back? Michael Thomas is out again this weekend, so we'll see how they can do.
All right. Mike?
Hey, I for one would like to see that Cozumel version of Informed Sources. Especially on my Spanish.
I would too.
But anyway, today, a very interesting hearing in the Jason Williams tax fraud criminal case. He's arguing to have the case dismissed. They presented their oral arguments before the federal judge, Martin Feldman. And it turns out that some agents visited the house of the co-defendant, Nicole Burdett, that did not sit well with the judge. He took it under advisement. He's going to issue a ruling later. But that you don't want to get the federal judge mad at the government, and they're trying to salvage this case.
Okay. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us from your different locations. Thank you guys for watching. And, of course, we'll see you again next week for Informed Sources. Have a good night.